Well, hello there, video subscribers and video perusers out there in internet land. This is David Summerfleck, the proud owner of Sudden Impact Web Design, suddenimpactwebdesign.com, Denver, Colorado's premier custom WordPress web design, SEO, e-commerce, and training provider. It's what I love doing, and hey, it's what I'm good at, right? Um, I love helping businesses go from 0 to 80 and really show them how websites are so much more than just these static electronic business cards, but could be saving them money, cutting overhead, getting them found, getting them more customers on a daily basis. So, all that being said, here's a question I answered on Quora.com that this guy here, Felix, was very nice enough to upvote. It is a public, viewable question, and I'd like to share it with people out there in video land. And especially since it seems to have benefited some people, and a lot of people seem to agree and like it. What are 5 essential skills every web developer should have? Okay. Web development itself could encompass lots of areas across many technologies. It's big, explaining what ways certain skills are essential and why. Okay. Yes, it's very, very true. You have web developers with certain specialties and areas of expertise that are more into programming, that are more into user experience, that are much, much more advanced in marketing and sales, for example, or who are web developers who excel at SEO, and their websites may look basic and may not even be mobile responsive, but have tremendous SEO value. Or maybe they're web developers who are just really good at working at chop shops, agencies that basically recycle the same template 1,000 million times and just change out a few pictures and colors, and boom, they're done. So it really depends. There's so many different types and levels and skills. So let's take a look at my answer here. Okay, 5 essential skills every web developer should have, in my humble opinion. Okay, number one, business acumen and judgment to tell sound business from fantasy quote unquote ideas that waste time and effort and potentially revenue. What do I mean by this? What I mean by this is people who call and say, well, I have the next idea for the next Facebook or the next Google. And when I ask them for details, they say, well, I'm not a programmer, so I don't know how this would work. Okay, great. That puts a huge onus of responsibility and diligence and work and research on me, and they probably don't have a budget or don't know what a budget should be or what have you. An idea doesn't equal a business. So it's really important not to waste your time like Don Quixote chasing after windmills. It doesn't mean that the people who have these ideas are not good people or that they don't mean well. It just means that every legitimate business has to be making some kind of revenue for at least 2 or 3 years before it can really be taken seriously. You really have to have 2 or 3 employees uh, before you can really be taken seriously. And as a web developer, you have to look for those things, because if you work for people who don't have those things, 9 times out of 10, their budget is incredibly small, or so small that you just can't really do anything, or there's not a lot of structure to the business. They don't really know what a website should look like or who their competitors are. So it leaves you doing much, much more work than just basic web development and SEO and e-commerce and so on. You have to basically run the business and help plan the business and diagnose the business. So you have to do much, much more than you're probably going to end up getting paid for. So, and I'm not saying that business owners in those positions can't have good budgets, but they need to be really clear about it up front. And basically set aside the same amount of money that you would set aside to put an ad in a major newspaper for 2 or 3 months. It's the same type of advertising campaign budget. The difference is that a website will last you forever, forever if it's maintained. So anyway, let's get on to point number 2, coding and programming ability, right? Because you have to be able to work with websites that may have issues. So if you have some programming ability with at least some level of HTML5, which is pretty easy, CSS, which is somewhat easy, PHP, which is a little bit more difficult because you're communicating with basically databases and connecting them to websites. So it's a little bit more complicated. Some JavaScript. It's not vital to me personally that developers be able to work on assembly line chop shops, but it's important to know good programming from junk code so you know what you're looking at. You know if something doesn't make sense. And how do you get this? Look at websites that do work, that look good, that run well. You know, look at the source code of sites like Amazon, Yahoo, Google, and then compare those source codes to similar sites, but look amateurish or don't work well, or are very small local sites that aren't responsive. And you compare the source code from the larger companies to the smaller ones that aren't producing the same type of work. And that's how you basically can begin learning. Number 3, money. You don't have to be a greedhead or Gordon Gekko to talk about money. And a lot of developers think that money is evil or there's awkward talking about money. But I can assure you, if you don't talk about money, you're going to end up suffering from lack of money because the majority of people out there don't know what professional websites should cost. They don't know if they should be free or should cost a few thousand or the cost of a meal out. They don't know. So it's your responsibility to talk about money and learn what is realistic and what's not realistic. And again, what I always use is the analogy of putting an ad in a community weekly newspaper for several months or a local newspaper for several months. Whatever you would spend on that venture is probably very similar to what would be realistic for professional level web design that's scaled in a similar fashion. Um, and that's, and if you work with someone who tells you they don't care about SEO or don't know what it is and aren't interested, then, you're basically going to be haggling over, amount that you could make working any day, for one day with almost any job. you know, their budget typically is a few $100s, and it's going to take you several weeks to work with them because of all the lack of structure and all the research you're going to have to do. So you have to talk about money and you have to talk about budget. The consumer, the business owner, they have to put aside several $1,000s if they want something that will last forever, that will represent them on a professional level, at least. If they are not willing to put that aside or they're not able to, then they need to either budget and save and wait until they are able to put aside 2 or 3 grand on average, or they're just not at that business level yet and they need to budget or wait. It's my opinion that going with the freebie template generator thingamajigs or trying to do things, for free or whatever, they come back to haunt you. And you can't really get rid of negative reviews or people that look at your site and look at it and just think, well, I wonder if this person is professional because their site doesn't work on mobile devices, or the images are blurry, or the e-commerce doesn't work, or the site is dangerous and gives my laptop viruses. You can't really undo that. You can apologize, you can come up with a new site, but it could take years to undo that. So in my opinion, it's better to do it right the first time. If you're a business owner, save or be willing to invest a couple of thousand, just like you would with putting an ad in the yellow pages or joining your local BBB or any other business investment. If you don't see it as a serious business investment, then it's not for you. then you're not ready for the internet because you just don't see the value in it. So anyway, let's go on to number 4. How to make custom themes so that you're not dependent upon frameworks and other people's deals. Yeah. Well, what does that mean? Well, frameworks could be very good. Genesis framework is very good. It's very sound. It's very reputable. It's very well known. There's a lot of support. But then there are other ones that are not as good. There are e-commerce platforms that require you to buy their themes in order to use their e-commerce, and so on. And there are people who have their own, they develop their own frameworks that are like Frankenstein walking down the street. Um, and you can tell usually by just looking at things and trying it out. So you have to, I think it's best to be able to make your own custom themes without having to be solely dependent upon what one company offers or what one person offers. So you have greater flexibility, but ultimately more independence. That you can say, hey, look, I can pretty much do just about anything if the client has a realistic budget and is reasonably easy to get along with and not combative. So I think it's important to be able to do that. And again, if you study HTML5 and you look at the programming and the view source for a lot of different sites, and you really look over it and read through it and read tutorials, spend a few hours a day doing that, after a few days you're going to be wanting to work on some basic sites. Code Canyon, Code Academy, those are good sites to learn from. So anyway, number 5, evil, cunning, methodical, and unrelenting patience, like a crocodile sitting in swampy water, because you need it. If you're a web developer or think you're a web developer or fantasize about being a web developer or what have you, everybody and their brother now thinks that they're web developers, will call themselves web developers. If you have an old CD or front page or something, or if you have one template and you just recycle it 1,000,000,000 times, you could call yourself a web developer. There's no overseeing organization for web developers like there are for doctors and dentists and lawyers and electricians and other service professionals. So anybody and everybody claims that they can do it. And the public, for the most part, they don't know good from bad. They say, well, I don't care about the design. I don't care about SEO. How cheap can I get something up and running immediately? And then you have all the people overseas who will do anything for, what will allow them to survive. So it's really, really important to represent yourself with integrity and honesty and, standing up tall and calling a spade. And if you see somebody doing something stupid with their money, tell them that. Of course, try to say it in a sensitive way because they may not even know what you're talking about. But tell people, maybe trying to get something for free is not the way to build a legitimate business if that's what you have. Maybe investing what you would, putting an ad in a major newspaper for a few months, or running a radio spot on a radio station for a couple months. Maybe that's how you should budget. Instead of trying to see how cheap can you get something, maybe you should just plan to set aside that kind of an amount. There are ways to say it, and a lot of it depends on what mood you're in. But you got to be unrelentingly methodical and patient, building up your business, getting contracts. And I put a lot of emphasis on building alliances with like-minded people, and that takes a lot of time and a lot of patience because all web developers see all other web developers as enemies and opponents and competition, when what they really should be doing, and other professions do this much, much better, they see each other as potential comrades, co-workers, partners, business associates. You very seldom see a dentist who's in one office and there aren't other dentists. Why is that? Because they know how to pool their resources to save money. They get it, and that's why they make more. The same thing with the lawyers. Very seldom do you see a lawyer in one office by himself struggling to get clients. He's a member of a group. He's a partner in a group. They even call him a partner because they know how to combine. One person will have this area of expertise. This is so and so. He's an expert in copyright law. He works for our firm. Then you have so and so. He's an expert in tax. So he works in the tax division. Then there's other person who's a forensic accountant. They all work together to make this one unstoppable whole. That if times are lean, they can go in this direction or that direction. So they're not, they don't see each other that way. And I think it's very, very important for web developers who want to survive and do it for more than just a few years to really look at partnering. Call local ad agencies, ask them to meet you for a cup of coffee. Go to their agency if they have one, meet them for a cup of coffee. Talk to them about what you can do. And don't believe anything anybody tells you until you have 2 or 3 or 4 meetings, because it's all hype and it's all hot air. Until you talk to them 3 or 4 or 5 times, and you can't know what they want. Just like working with clients, you can't know what they really want until you've met with them on several occasions and talked to them about different aspects of their business. Where are they vulnerable? Where are they not growing that they would like to? What areas have they come across that they wish they could have been able to address and now they can with you, and so on, that kind of thing. So look at yourself as a crocodile in swampy water who's willing to get out of that swamp every once in a while and partner with other crocs, because even the crocodiles, they don't swim down that water by themselves. They stick together in groups of 10 or 20 or 30, and that's how they're able to fend off sharks and hippos and other predators. So you always band together. It's only web developers that just don't do it. And I think that largely has to do with the ones who are inexperienced and they don't know you know. So always look at yourself in that light. How can I be smart and savvy and watch and learn from others who are more experienced or larger or more profitable? At what times do you want to come out of the water and reveal yourself and be vulnerable and have 3 or 4 meetings to get to know people? And there are more posers and catfishers like that TV show on MTV, and more scam artists in web design than probably any other profession in the world, because again, the public is so misinformed about it and uninformed about it and doesn't know what to do with it or how to perceive it, and anybody can see that they're doing it. So it's very, very important to know that and be prepared in advance. So I hope that helps answer the question of what are 5 essential skills every web developer should have. And if you out there in video land are looking for a trustworthy, competent, experienced, and very honest developer, sudden impact webdesign.com, custom WordPress web design, SEO, e-commerce, business management, business advice, you name it. If I can't do it, I will tell you. So suddenimpactwebdesign.com, and hope you enjoyed this video as well. If you did and you'd like to do me a nice little tip of the hat, go to Facebook/Sudden Impact Web Design and give us a like too. So thanks a lot, everybody, and have a great, safe day. Bye-bye.